Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
Hey there, and welcome to the Brittany Wheeler Show. Join Brittany as she interviews incredible people whose stories will uplift you and remind you the life you long for is just ahead. Buckle up for an inspirational ride to your best life. Take it away, Britt.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Brittany Wheeler Show. My name is Brittany Wheeler, and I am, yes, your host of the Brittany Wheeler Show. If it's your first time joining us, thank you for coming along. Get ready for a really incredible conversation. If it's your second, third, 60th, 75th, however many episodes we have right now, you know the drill. You know what to look forward to, and I'm really, really excited for this conversation. And what's really cool is these guests are new friends, new acquaintances. So sometimes I interview people, and I am on the ride just as much as you are, getting to hear stories for the first time and getting to hear their hearts and what they're doing in their lives of just being ordinary people living extraordinary lives. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce them. They are a husband-wife, which is also a fun experience. We get to interview two individuals. They are parents to 5 children. TBD if there's going to be more. We're open to it. That's from them, not from me, y'all. I didn't say that. That is they are entrepreneurs. They're retired merchant marines, half retired merchant marines. They are also sisters and brothers in Christ. Please welcome Jenn and Alex Hayes to the Brittany Wheeler Show.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you. That was a great intro.
You're so welcome. You guys can just crop this and then use it for your clients or whatever, or use it for people you meet and be like, hey, you want to know who I am? Here's this little clip.
Oh, perfect.
Perfect.
So I love to set the scene too, because there is an audience that's watching and they're like, holy crap, where are these people? And so you guys live in such a cool lifestyle, and we'll get into that a little bit. But for those that are just looking at the screen, they are currently in New Mexico living just such a badass life. And we'll share more about that, I think, as we talk. But if you guys are wondering what it is, they're not, randomly on vacation. This is their life, and they are this is their quiet space away from their 5 children. So thank you for finding the outdoors, because we are very fortunate to see it in the background as you guys share.
Well, thank you. I apologize in advance for all the wind. If you pick up too much wind or the screens, we're outside in the elements, but really happy to be here.
Hey, we're happy to have you. And honestly, it gives people that need multiple things to look at, they can just look at the wind, and they'll be stimulated and focused in the conversation. You were doing it for the neurodivergence of the world, yep. Alex. I So I pass this segment to the guests, and there's a couple of things. Sometimes I interview people that I know really, really well, which is how we were introduced. One of my dear friends, Sarah Carter. Sometimes I like now, right? Like I've had an hour conversation with Alex and 20-minute conversation with Jen. So this is a really new acquaintance and friendship for me. And I love to pass back to you to either share how we met or honestly, just why you said yes to this podcast. It really helps the guests, I believe, the audience, get to know us a little bit better and set the platform and the stage for the conversation ahead. So you guys can answer whichever one you want, but I'll let you choose.
Sure. So, like you said, Sarah Carter introduced us. She was a classmate. She's a friend of mine, good classmate of ours from the United States Merchant Marine Academy. Jen and I have started offering business coaching services, and we wanted to connect. Sarah Carter does a great job being a leadership coach, and we connected with her, wanted to see if she had any connections in the space that could help us get the word out on what we were trying to do and build. And we were excited to get that introduction to you. And we had a great hour-long conversation about what you were trying to do, and we got really excited about figuring out how we can help you. And that's what led to the podcast.
Yeah. And just being able to share your story, right? And I think a lot of times, no matter what we're doing, whether it's an entrepreneur or we're in the nonprofit space or ministry, I think there's so much about what we're doing that is also about sharing our heart behind it, right? And sharing about us and the why behind why we're doing it. So I love that the audience is going to get to dive in a little bit deeper and hear both of your stories and your heart, how you're here. And as a result, it's going to strengthen your community and what you're doing, and give people a little bit more of who Alex and Jen are behind, what you're creating and what you're trying to offer the world. So thank you for saying yes.
Thank Absolutely. You. Appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Okay, Jen, we're going to start with you because I find you fascinating. I've met you for 20 minutes. I'm like, this girl's incredible. And
I find her fascinating as well.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
we're going to take that as a good thing, Alex. You are a recording, so
Absolutely.
we're going to take it as a good thing.
It's true. It's true.
So share with us, the audience who obviously may not have any context to who you are, what was your childhood like? And ultimately, you're a West Coast girly. So, what brought you to the Merchant Marine Academy, even just as a youth, and that was your decision and towards your career?
So I grew up in the military. My parents were both military, and my dad decided to kind of go out in the reserves. And we decided to go to Yuma, Arizona. So that's where I consider my home, my upbringing was Yuma, Arizona. Desert, hot, um, small town. It was a small Aggie town. And basically, what my family and I did was we would go take day trips out to San Diego and we would go sail on the bay. So that's where my love of water kind of came in because, growing up in the desert, there's no water there. But hey, we are 2.5 hours away from San Diego. So it was a joyous place. And I saw the ships out in San Diego Bay Area. And but I was like, oh, that'd be cool to be on one of those. And I just thought nothing of it. And um, so basically what led me to Merchant Marine Academy was kind of a whim, actually. That's kind of how I live my life is no, I know. It's so opposite. He has a plan, he has a pathway. I'm just like, oh, could be fun. Let's do this. So my first time actually arriving Kings Point, Merchant Marine Academy, was the day of in-dock. And it was just kind of like, okay, here I am. Oh, right. 4 years of this. This should be fun. But yeah, so that was basically what led me to Kings Point. I think honestly, it was probably God just directing my path because there's no way I would ever think of that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Were you being a military brat, for lack of a better term? Like,
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Hmm.
I feel like in that situation, it goes two ways. It's like you can't imagine anything else because that's what your parents did, right? Just like with anything, a child, or like, heck no, like I'm staying far, far away. Where on the spectrum did you feel like you were before you decided the Merchant Marines?
I think I was just kind of like used to it. So when we finally settled down in Yuma, Arizona, it took us like maybe 10 years to finally paint our walls because when you live in beast housing, you're not allowed to paint, hardly hang up. I don't think you're allowed to paint any pictures up, but yeah, it took us that long just to put down roots inside of our home. So I think I definitely kind of embraced the life and we always loved to travel, loved to see things, go camping. My parents were kind of on the extreme where we'd go 2 weeks out in the middle of nowhere in the mountains of Arizona where you had to bring your own water source because there's no water there. So it was the kind of childhood I guess I grew up in. Some people loved it. I was just like, okay, well, this is my childhood. All right. We'll just go with the flow here.
Yeah, that's how you lived. Yeah. Do you have any siblings?
I do have an older brother.
Very cool. I love that you've been able to take part of what joy you have from your childhood, except the bringing your own water source, you're providing that for your children.
Right. Yeah.
But to give them that experience, right, of getting to camp and to discover culture and discover new places, it's going to be, I mean, it was obviously impactful for you because it led you to make the decisions and to also adjust to the lifestyle that is military, no matter what branch or what, part of the organization you decide to be a part of. And I think that's going to be an element for your children too. It's like getting to see so many different things, so many different places, and being willing to have, all of your stuff in this small space. Well, it creates this like resilience and agileness, right? That can be really transferable in a
Right.
lot of things.
Right. The flexibility, I definitely love the flexibility that we have now and not really holding on to materialism. It's kind of like, hey, we have this amount of stuff. We can't bring that much stuff in the camper because our camper is not really, as big as for 7 people.
Yeah.
So it's kind of teaching us like, hey, do we really need this? No, I haven't even used this in a year. Let's just throw it out or donate it somewhere. So it's kind of that mentality
Mm.
that I think our kids would really benefit from in the future.
Yeah. And also too with homeschooling, I think that something that makes homeschooling really rich, and we could probably have a whole conversation around homeschooling. I think that there's a whole movement happening, which I'm not a huge fan of, which is like I'm homeschooling and I'm just gonna berate and belittle the institution in which my children came from. And like you don't have to do both, right? You can choose to homeschool your children for the reasons that matter to you without tearing down the institution that they just came from. But I
Right.
think what I believe and what I experienced, because I homeschooled 5 children, technically four, for a year. And what I found to be the most impactful for me was part of what makes homeschool so rich is not that you have the choice, the decision to raise your children, teach them whatever you need to teach. It's that you have the flexibility and the power and the ability to enhance their richness of their experience by traveling, by, teaching them science or going to places and letting this be a really like covering all the modalities of what it means to understand this topic in math or history or whatnot. And you guys get to
Yes.
do that, right? Like, so
Yeah, it's integrating your life, and it's really, I think it's really coming into play now this year of like just the whole integration of like, you could see math outside in nature. It's just not math on the paper. You can go live it too. And this last year, what I did with the kids was I made them keep nature journals. So when we go to the national park, like what is one thing that you remember from the national park, like a scene, or let's sit down and draw Mount Rushmore. So and they'll have those memories too. So it's a really beautiful thing to see, and we kind of just like we're allowed to slow it down a lot. So we don't have to keep another person's pace. We can keep our family's pace
yeah.
and set the heartbeat of our family, whether fast or slow, during some seasons. So that's what I love too. And like with the kids now, like we're learning Mandarin. We have a Mandarin coach. And that'd be kind of hard to do in a traditional school setting, because afterwards you know, they could do, they can learn another language afterwards, but it's just kind of a lot happening there. So it's kind of, we kind of thrive in the simplicity of it, but it's so enriching.
Yeah, I love that. I also love that. I don't know you well enough, but I feel like you're an overachiever. And so you're like, well, my kids could learn Spanish, but you know what? I really think that what's going to move the needle for them in the future is Mandarin.
I know, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You kind of peg me
yeah,
really.
yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's
It's just,
easy. It's all
it's a
easy.
safe
Good.
space in the Brittany Wheeler show. Okay. It's a safe space. It's totally fine.
Oh,
Uh,
I love it.
Alex, I want to pivot to you a little bit because we've just had like such an awesome visual from Jen of her childhood and what that's like. I want to go back onto yours. Who uh, take us a little bit back into your childhood, but more importantly, I want to know who in your life was the most influential person in becoming the man you are today.
Yeah, that's a great question. I grew up in middle class America in South Florida, and where there was more cows than people, and eventually all the cows disappeared. So the people came in, but it was a great childhood. It was great to be down in South Florida. It was a great place to live, and be from, and grow up. Got some really good old friends that are still down there in the area. Um, and we went to Kings Point because one, when I graduated high school, I didn't really have any real plan. And my father sat me down and said, "Son, what are you going to do with the rest of your life?" I said, "Well, gee, Dad, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life." He says, "Well, let me tell you about this place called Kings Point." And because my father is a graduate of '73, and then my grandfather graduated in '45. So I was third generation Kings Pointer that went to sea for a living, um, and so sea was kind of in the family blood, and I didn't even know it at the time. It took me 2 years at the academy to even realize that they were teaching me a job to go to sea for a living, and that's what I was going to do as an occupation. That's how slow I was.
We're glad
Yeah,
you caught up. We're glad you
I'm
caught
glad. Yeah, I mean, I made a good career. I mean, I went 12 years after that. So,
Yeah.
but once I figured it out, I was like, all right, we're going to do this. But no, I would say my father would have to be the most influential person in my life that has kind of shaped me in the way I am now. So, yeah, I think that's kind of me in a nutshell. I got three other siblings, an older sister, two younger brothers. They all, most of them still live back down in South Florida. And, my sister and her husband, and they have four kids. They live up in Georgia. So, but it's a good family. It's a good tight family. And
He was also homeschooled too.
I was homeschooled. Yeah. I was homeschooled in high school.
See, it's so interesting. Okay, so as you guys are sharing, it's like so cool to see um like both of what you shared as far as your childhoods. Obviously, nobody's perfect, right? We know that there's life that happens, right? We are not void of pain. But what I love about your stories, and to be honest, a lot of my guests who have the most incredible stories don't have the childhoods that you had. And so what I love about this conversation so far is getting to hear that you both had such a wholesome childhood in a way that you're now able to take your children's childhood to another level, right? To another level that can, if there's any generational curses to break, you're breaking them. And if not, it's just expanding or expounding or whatever really cool word on what your parents have done for you, right? And that's really, really powerful and really, really cool. And something that I know a lot of people that I talk to are working on breaking generational curses. I've broken several of them on my own, right? Of things I experienced based on my family as a child. And I just, at the Brittany Wheeler Show, this is very refreshing. So thank you for being able to share.
You know what? So Alex didn't mention this, but his grandparents were missionaries to Dominican Republic too. So he's had that great enriching of the wisdom and godly, just lifestyle passed down from generations. And it's just, I think that's a testament in itself because not that many people have that kind of, the longevity of Christianity and loving God and, faith inside their family for that long. So I think that's a testament.
And that grandfather also went to sea during World War II. He volunteered when he was 17. He lied about his age to get into the Navy. And yeah, so
I didn't know that.
he was in the Navy during World War II. So I have sea on both sides.
Wow, that's so cool. Wow. Wow. I'm just taking this in for a second. Just taking this in. And Jen, you make a really good point too, right? That like we're in a movement right now. We're in a space where people are salivating for Jesus and like just to be free of some pain, right? And we know that walking with Jesus does not mean that pain doesn't go away. It just means that he carries the burden with us, right? That if we follow him in the way that he lives out and the way that he walks and the way that he loves, the pain will still be there, but there's such redemption. God is not just a good God, he's a redeeming God. And so it is rare that I'm standing across from someone who is generationally believing in Christ in well, right? Believing in Christ well, not just going to church on Sunday, maybe fear-based Christianity that hasn't served us at all. So you're right. Thank you for pointing that out because that is such a gift, honestly, Alex. So you better not take that for granted, okay?
No, not a single day.
So Jen, share with me because I think you're just fascinating. Okay. How I think you're so cool. Also, maybe it's because I think your personality reminds me of Sarah Carter, who is a dear friend of mine that I just feel like I'm talking to Sarah because she's got this boisterous personality that's honest and raw. Will tell it how it is, but also will give you the shirt off her back, but also like structure, but is like, you know what? Maybe we'll do it. Like Sarah is the person that sends me the reel that says, I'll do anything. I will commit murder. I will get you out of jail. I will dig a hole as long as I'm in bed by 9. Like, that's just, that's like the energy that Sarah Carter gives off, right? I feel like that's the exact for you. So, you get to the Merchant Marine, right? And you're like, okay, I'm here. Like this whimsical version of yourself, right? And you pursue that. First off, what was that dream like in that process? And how has that dream changed now becoming an entrepreneur and becoming a mom and becoming a wife?
So my thing, okay, going to the Merchant Marine Academy, it was what did I man, it's been a while, but I was wanting to be like a career girl, like, yes, let's go in government. Like, let's climb the corporate ladder, not even corporate ladder, like government ladder. I don't even know. Cause I thought that was like kind of cool.
She was going to climb that ladder.
Climb the ladder. Let's climb that ladder. Uh, but, but then maybe my last couple of years in Notre Dame Academy, I was like, you know what? I just want to have fun. Forget the ladder. Like, let's just have fun. So, I loved the most. So at the academy, I went, offshore sailing, just having a lot of fun there. But, so after I graduated, the goal was to sail on my license. So I did Kirby, inland marine, sailing on the push boats up and down the Mississippi and the ICW for a year. And then I was like, you know what? I don't know if I want to do this anymore because it was just hard, 7 days on, 7 days off, and there's no life there. So I was like, you know what? Forget it. But then after that, I definitely wanted to go back to Africa because I loved Africa. I still do. And it's like this rustic beauty that seems untouched by civilization and the people living there. So I went as a third mate on the Africa Mercy over there. So I think I did that for like 3 months, and it was a hospital ship. So it was full of doctors. It was international crew. I think it was like multi-flagged. So it was just a lot of fun on that ship and just meeting different people, different cultures. It was just, I think my view was like, I just want to travel and I just want to go see things and do things. And then whenever I met this guy, reconnected with him, he was like, no, I just want to stay home, be a homebody. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Let's go travel. Let's go see. So I think my dreams were um, kind of guided now instead of this, Jen's world. It's kind of like, okay, let's get you kind of like in the real world. So he kind of got me grounded a little bit where not everything is happy and roses. It's just kind of like, okay, this is the real life here. I was like, okay. But I think that was God working in me to actually put roots down because growing up in the military lifestyle, I never really put roots down. I was always, bouncing around, just doing anything. So that time that we had in that house that I wanted to, burn down for how insurance, well, living on a sailboat, God was like, no, you're going to be right here and you're going to put roots down and I'm going to teach you how to put roots down for a while. So that it was kind of reality brought into my dreams, which it was a good thing. It was definitely a good thing because I wouldn't be the person or do the things that we're able to do if I didn't have that kind of, I guess, mentality shift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you balance this is really just coming to me because I think there are so many young women that had that same thought. I had the same thought. I was ready to climb a ladder and then I started my health and wellness business and it hit me like how many people are going to have to die in order for me to actually continue to climb that ladder. And so I think there's a lot of women that are like ready to make a difference or ready to like go into their career and whatever that is. But then there's also this like juxtaposition of like maybe passions or desires that pull them from that lifestyle. How do you navigate that now? Because what I assume is that the fire of climbing the ladder is still in you. It's just not positioned at climbing the ladder, right? So how do you navigate that with this fire and desire to work hard and to push forward and to achieve big things, but also now being a mom and that being a huge and a homeschool mom at that, and that being a huge priority in your life?
So becoming a mother, it's so interesting because I didn't realize how selfish we were until having a child screaming up in the middle of the night and you're like, oh, I'm the only one that could feed this child. I better go. So it kind of showed me, it was like, the children are a mirror of yourselves where you see all the bad little habits that you've picked up. You're like, oh my goodness. Like I had no idea that was possible, so that fire now is more streamlined into making the future generation more capable to live the life that God has that will allow them to live in the future. So it's no longer more about me. It's more about the kids and doing everything that I can to be a good steward as a mother of them, because these are gifts that God has given us. So being a good steward as parents to help raise these kids in God, and to love his law and to never depart from him. So that's where I think the mental shift has happened in my mind of like, it's no longer about me anymore. It's about my kids, and the fire has shifted to kind of training them for God, to be used by God.
And if I could expand on that just from an observation perspective, the the fire that she has is definitely not put out.
Oh
Right.
no, it's not.
It's actually it's more inflamed now than it's ever been but I think you've kind of hit it on the head too, where it's more focused rather than just kind of random fire burning. It's a focused fire that's more intense because the heat is concentrated now
It's
on
laser.
on the kids, the upbringing, the homeschooling, the business, the coaching. Because I mean, there's the level of productivity that she's able to achieve is honestly unbelievable. It is unbelievable what she's able to get done in a 24-hour day.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
from an observation standpoint, I could tell you the passion and fire is there, very strong, and it's burning very bright. And but it's just redirected into a really focused channel.
Yeah, that's good.
I like how you put that. Thank you.
That was a great support answer, Alex. There's I find any opportunity that I can to allow my guests to speak on the titles that they carry, good, bad, or indifferent, right? And being able to speak to those that are in those spaces. And one of those that's coming to mind is I don't know, do you guys watch American Idol at all?
I have watched it in the past. We don't have a TV, so
That's okay. That's okay. Okay, so last time I actually watched American Idol was 2005 when I voted 75
wow.
times for Carrie Underwood to win on a landline. Okay, that was the last time I watched American Idol. But I started getting clips on Instagram, and I was like, "There's for me and my giftings, I can easily see." Enemy warfare, and I can see spiritual warfare. I can easily see when God is present, and I can easily see when the enemy is present. And so it was like, there is something really godly happening about American Idol. And it has. And it's been incredible to watch this season. All of I think the top 7 were all believers walking with Christ, not just Sunday Christians. And that's huge. And there's one who's in the final 3, and her name is Brianna Nix, and her and her husband pursued this on a whim. And I'll never forget her audition was she went into the audition and she was like, Carrie asks her, what's your name? What do you do? And she goes, I'm just a stay-at-home mom. And Carrie goes, you never say you're just a stay-at-home mom. And what I believe is happening as a result of this show is, and this is my prediction, and who knows if the Holy Spirit's got me point on, because this episode will air way after they announce the winner. But one of the things that I believe is that she represents a huge community of underseen, undervalued, misunderstood women and potentially men who are stay-at-home dads who have somebody who is getting on stage pursuing their dreams with the support of their spouse and their children. And the votes belong to that community. And so I actually think she might win, particularly because moms don't mess with them. Like, I just feel like there's just going to be something really powerful at that. But I also believe that she's representing a community that's like salivating to be heard, to be seen, to be understood, to feel like, hey, this thing that I'm doing is a job. It is a full-time work that I'm doing, regardless of whether you believe that my dollar values are going into the home. And so part of the question I really want to know is, I think there are a lot of beautiful women that listen to the show that are career women and moms or moms full time. And a lot of them, regardless of what they do, they have a really hard time making sure that the things that they love and they're passionate about are things that they pursue. So I would love to know, since you are a manifesto of time in 24 hours and you have put your fire into this next generation, like how, when and what do you make time for the passions and the things that matter to you in order to stay in touch with yourself and to stay connected, not only with God, but with, that inner Jen?
So honestly, it's all about integrating life. Traveling, I love traveling. I love just seeing new things, and it's just and being out in nature. So how do we do that? We integrated. Well, we moved into a camper, and that just kind of that makes me feel alive. But then with devotionals, we do daily devotionals with the kids, and it's just basically it's just integrating. You can't live life. Well, you can live life in like little boxes, and you just have your little boxes of like, hey, this is me, this is my husband, this is my kids, this is business. But I think you're just gonna feel burnt out. What you have to do is take out everything out of all those boxes, dump it on the floor, and then pick out the pieces from every single one of them that can integrate together, or how can you integrate it together and put them into one big box. And in doing so, you're going to get rid of like all the fluff, but also stay focused on, yourself. Like, so what kind of desserts do you have? And can you bring your family along too? Like it's all about living life together.
And a tool that we use to do that is called it was called Asthma Circle, essentially. And so what it is every week you list out all the different hats that you wear, whether it's for me would be husband, Jen would be wife, and then there's mother or father, then there's homeschool, then there's business owner, then there's client relations, or then sales, whatever hat. All that you list all the hats, right? You put it all down onto a sheet, and then you write down what is the one or two most important things to get done this week, that for each of these hats that I need to get done, right? And then you schedule your week. It's calendar management, right? You can get a free one from Google, or you can use Outlook calendar. We use Outlook because we have Microsoft Outlook, but getting your calendar straight, super important to getting your life straight. That's been a huge benefit to us, is being able to, one, understand what the prioritization needs to be in our life, and focusing heavily on the most important tasks. And then everything else gets the subheadings, right? Everything else gets fit in wherever it can around the main things. And then so that you always have space and time to do what you need to do
and want to do,
but then everything else doesn't feel like a fire. Like it's now all of a sudden you're not always putting out fires, because one, that you're focused, you've already got done your main task for the week, or you have time allotted to do that, right? That's what most people don't do, is most people don't give themselves their time back to be able to focus on those most important tasks. And it's important to schedule husband and wife time. It's important to schedule time with the kids. It's important to schedule
like me time.
Yeah.
Me time. I love to go for walks in the morning, and so does he. So we take turns.
Yeah. So it's making sure that you don't squander the most important resource that we get, and that's our time, right? But you have to be able to prioritize effectively, and that's really that's the foundational block of being effective,
and also live intentionally
and
too.
living intentionally. Yeah, and that's how you start to integrate work and life, right?
Yes.
For us, because entrepreneurs, we're integrating our work and our life together on the road, and everything kind of folds together.
And teaching the kids that too.
I really don't like work-life balance phrase. I hate that phrase, because there is no such thing as balance. Like we could think we get it, but especially for entrepreneurs, there's no balance. There's never a balance. It's always, how do you cope?
Yeah.
Right. So, but the real thing that we found that's been the most beneficial is being intentional. And that's how intentional with our integrating both personal time, family time, work time, client time, and really making sure that, our biggest one is the God time, right, in the morning.
Yeah.
Right. So our schedule every day starts with God right after breakfast, and that's with the kids and the family. And so that's been a huge, huge help, making sure that everything important has time. And if it's not, then you realize there's not a whole lot of things that are important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think too, like, it's funny because I was like, as I'm even asking questions and engaged, part of my brain sometimes will be like, do I, I was just thinking like, do I spend some time editing later? Or, do I like, as an entrepreneur, you're like, well, what am I going to do? Like, what am I going to do later? And then I'm like, Brittany, you just did 2 podcasts, plus you had a 2-hour meeting this morning. I think it's okay that you don't edit since you just put out a lot today. So that's my mind, right? That's an entrepreneur mind of like, what more can I do to move the needle? But I think to your point, I have actually been, my sister and I have this conversation often where she'll pick at me for scheduling our time or for, putting things like that on the calendar. And I say, well, here's the thing. For me, if it's not in GCal, it's not happening. Number one. And number two, me booking and putting it on the calendar, it means that I care. I think a lot of people listening to this could feel overwhelmed that like, oh my gosh, like my friends asked me to do this and I got to book it in advance. It's because they care about you. It's because you are a priority, right? It's because they are living intentionally and asking that you join them. And so I love what you said about not only integrating as a way to stay true to yourself, but also just managing your calendar in a way that it prioritizes what matters. And I think what happens is like the average day, you got 2 working parents, let's say, you come home and all of a sudden you're met with exhaustion, tired, 5 kids that just got out of school and whatever. And then all the things that you would have actually made a priority get lost, right, in the unravel of the day. But it's like if you already have, weeks planned out at a time. And even if you start out doing, like you said, just start out doing it week to week. Like it's okay that that's all that you do. And then it's just like budgeting, right? I feel like when it comes to being a calendar professional, if you will, it starts with just doing it, looking out, right? And then all of a sudden, the more you do it, the more you're like, okay, we can look 2 weeks out and you may only get there. But like you said, I think what you're going to find is that there's still quiet time. There's still rest time. There's still date time. But that's because you've made it a priority. And, if you are a working professional in a high functioning job or an entrepreneur, or you are raising 4 kids or 5 kids or 7 kids or 1 kid, it doesn't matter. Like it is important to map that out, right? Because again, time can get away from us. And Alex, I love that you said that because I resonate with that so much. Like time is the one thing you can't get back. And I always remember like when I was introduced to that business in 2014 of like the things that were being said to me, I'd never really heard before. Just like, like time is the one exchange and it is the one thing that in the past decade I've had the most of. And what God has asked me to do and taken me on a journey of is giving him identities that I've grown in the past 10 years and also being willing to give him my time as well, knowing that it's my most precious thing, knowing it's the thing that I've been protective of the most because it is the most invaluable. It's the gift that I've been able to use to watch my best friend's kids for a week when her and her husband went on vacation. It's been the thing that allows me to go and hang out with other friends and be there for their families and get to spend time with, like, it's time, right? Like and so I think that's not only a valuable nugget, but what a great piece of wisdom for moms and dads listening on. You really do. You need to take that time to integrate and to be intentional and map that out for your family.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah. For us, we just plan a week ahead because we don't know where we're going to be on the road.
Yeah.
So it's okay. It's okay. It's a week ahead. That's it.
Yeah. So that also fills Jen's void of like structure. We and Alex is like, we need a week of structure and then we'll change it.
I need a week, at least a week. No, so we get our routine now is at Sunday night is when we map out the week.
Yeah.
So like we do our family, we have church, then we have family time, right? And playing and everything. And then by the time kids are ready to go to bed, Jen and I will stay up for another couple hours and we'll make sure that we just map out the rest of the schedule for the week. And it could be like, it could for everybody's going to look different because some people are more productive if they schedule it out every 15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
I like to do blocks of time. So I give myself like a 3-hour chunk to focus on one task where, my creativity can flow. I'm not distracted because this is my time for this, but like, so different. It depends. Everybody's going to be a little different on how they structure their calendar. But the point is just you want to have something at least on the calendar, even if it's just a couple hours, say me time, or a couple hours for, or an hour or 15 minutes per kid. I want to spend 15 minutes for my kid. So entrepreneurs have to be super intentional because everybody wants your time. There's so many people out there that's just going to eat your clock, eat your time away. and you're not gonna feel like you got anything done because
Yeah.
you weren't able to focus on what you needed to. So
Yeah.
that's something that we found super beneficial, is just getting into that habit and that routine. And that's one of the major things that we want to help other people do, and help incorporate that kind of structure into their life.
Love that. Love that. And again, I just think that's so powerful. And even as, an entrepreneur, I find myself every couple months, and I think in this season I'll be doing it again, of like, okay, what does my calendar look like? Right. Like, what does my week to week look like to be able to produce, right? And to give myself grace and to know what you're doing and to know that, like, yeah, I had two back to back. I had a 2 hour interview. It was the longest interview I've ever done just a little bit ago. And I've had this interview, and then I had a client meeting. And like, of course, I'm looking at two individuals like myself that have a high capacity, right, for performing. And so it's easy for me to be like, you know what, I'll just go and I'll transition. But then we forget that, like, there are parts of being an entrepreneur that have to get compartmentalized in order to be able to function at their capacity, right? Because what I'm producing today, what I'm putting out today is personal, it's relational, I'm with, I'm activating the Holy Spirit within, like, I'm very in tune. That's very different than turning my brain in a different direction and going into a creative space, right? Or a strategy space. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs are like, well, I can go from running my shop, right, or being the face of my brand, and then turn around and be behind the scenes. And the reality is, I don't think that's true for most people, because there's such dramatic differences. You can, if you have time, you can, if you schedule the time, for sure. But I think there's grace in that, and knowing your brain and know how you work, and knowing, like, maybe there just needs to be a day where everything is front facing, everything is people oriented, so that when you do have those days of strategy as an entrepreneur, you can set them aside, so that way you can be fully present. You can tap into that space that you need to, whether it's focus or creativity, and things of that nature. So that was a really great point, Alex. Thank you for sharing that. Um, I'd love to know for you, where, like, honestly, where did things change for you? Like, you're a third generation, you've got sea on both sides, and then all of a sudden now you're still in the reserves, but you've retired from being, active on the water. What changed, and how did God bring you and call you to this place that you're at now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it wasn't all at once. I didn't get a divine revelation, say, you're done, you're going to do this now. I think God knows me well enough that he kind of structured my exit from sea stair stepped, where it just, the joy of going to sea I once had and fulfillment I got from being a sailor kind of started to disappear.
Wow.
And it really happened over a 4-year period towards the end of my career. So it just slowly started to get worse and worse. And then it really peaked right at the end there with COVID, not even being able to go ashore, and not even knowing if I was ever going to be able to make it home again really was scary. And that's when I decided, I don't think I think I'm done. If I can't even get back home again, Jed's pregnant with, I forget what child
Fourth
number. Yeah.
child.
Yeah. It was kinda like, yeah. So I was not, at that point, it just, shipping seemed like it wasn't a career for me anymore. And I had already reached the top, and that to me was kind of scary, where I was sailing as a captain with the rank with the company I've been with for 12 years, and there was nowhere to go. And there's nowhere that just it felt choking. And it, it, not having something else to achieve in life really kind of made me think about, well, I don't really think this is where I'm going to be forever now. So that's what kind of sparked that interest of, all right, well, what else could I be doing with my life? And found entrepreneurship, and dived into trying to figure out what the next thing was for us.
Yeah. And I love that, like, your career, really did pave the way. I think, like, there's so many people get so pigeonholed in certain careers because they think that they're not transferable. But the reality is that most careers are transferable. You just have to think about it. I'll never forget when I went from retail to hospitality. I ran a $10 million retail store, and this woman at a restaurant told me they're not the same thing. And I literally wanted to smack her across the face. I was like, wait a second. I was like, I'm sorry. Like, they're the exact same thing, different font, right? Like they're literally the same. I was like, the difference is that I can actually make my worth hourly and go home as a waitress, where in retail I was responsible for 120 people. And it was just, that was the biggest difference. But I think for you, like coming out of having such a leadership position, overseeing people, right? Like being able to be like, okay, what can I do? I think having the courage to say, oh, what does that look like? How do I take all of my skills, all of my years of doing X, right? And transfer them. What I'd love to know though is I think there's a lot of I not that I think, I believe that there are a lot of men out there who are in the position you're at, where the thing they thought was going to bring them joy in their career is no longer bringing them joy. And they may not have choices like, you guys have had, or they may not have choices at all in the sense of financially, but yet their heart is longing for something else. Like, how is a man, with 4 children and a wife that need to provide, like, how did you transition from that? And what advice could you give other men that maybe are navigating that themselves?
So I think it's one, you have to be aligned with your spouse, right? If you're married, make sure that your wife is on board, and you got to be honest, say, kind of telling her where you're at mentally and spiritually, and this is what you kind of feel called to do. And you really need to spend some time making sure that your heart's right with the Lord. I I regret that I knew something was different, but I I think I could have done a better job at that, especially early on. I feel like Jen and I right now are in a much different place we were 5 years ago, both mentally and spiritually, as a married couple, and that transition was not as seamless as I would have liked it to be. And I think that would going to probably be one of the first things to check is make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons, not because you're going through a midlife crisis, right? You're like you want to make sure that I'll give you a story because we just watched the movie. We just watched The Cinderella Man last night,
Okay.
right? And it really spoke to me because it was super powerful to hear uh, how James J. Braddock he had everything. He had a career in boxing, and he was doing it for the wrong reasons, and he lost, and it broke him for a while. But then when he came back into boxing after being humbled, he came back and at one of the reporters asked him, "Why is he doing it?" His answer was milk. Why did he go back into boxing? He's like, milk. And that I even to the point where I had Jen write milk on our bulkhead in the camper. I said, I want to see that. I want to see that word from now for the next 3 months. I want to focus on that word alone because that's so powerful. When you know that your motivation is right, that's when you get alignment, right? And it's for a long time that wasn't the case for me, and I was trying to, we were in Bitcoin mining, we were doing crypto, we were, you know, I admit that we were chasing probably the wrong things, right, the wrong dream, and that really stumbled us for a while. And I want to help people not have to stumble like that, right? I think that people can get focused and get aligned, get clarity on what it is that they want to do. And I think they can do that with mind, body, and spirit a lot better than I went through for the first few years. Right. And that's where I want to be able to bring that level of clarity to the entrepreneurship community because it's without clarity of why you're doing something. And if you're not doing it for the right reasons, it's going to struggle. You're going to struggle, and it's because it's hard. 'Cause it's hard to be an entrepreneur. It's hard to have your own business. There's so many unknowns. There's so many different things going on. But having that level of clarity on the why, and then being able to know that, yeah, I'm in alignment with my wife and with the Lord and with my kids, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing. There is nothing more satisfying than that. And I believe that would ever like having now where we are at now in that journey is so different than when we started. So different. And it's powerful.
Thank you for sharing that. for a few reasons. Thank you for sharing that there is, you could have done better. I think that everyone looks at someone else's story and it's like, oh, they did a great job. And you being able to be like, hey, I could have done better for X, Y, and Z. But also being willing to kind of call out your own self on what you were pursuing and why. And uh, I would love to know if you're willing to share, what did you believe that being an entrepreneur when you first started, what did you believe what problems did you believe that it was going to solve?
The only problem I was trying to solve was selfishly was cash flow. How to do so when I got it. So the first thing we actually did was Bitcoin mining at home because in 2020, Bitcoin mining residentially was super profitable for not a lot of investment. And so we spent a lot of money, converted a 6x6 data center into or a closet into a data center, which I figured out how to design, how to build it, and paid electricians, paid HVAC, like the whole nine, right? Insulated it, and that closet produced at its peak, it was producing $1,200 a day in crypto, and that lasted not a very long time and because there's a whole lot of other things that go into Bitcoin mining, right?
Yeah.
Mining economics of it. But I think one of the things that really kind of actually hurt me early was I did have a lot of success because I got validation very fast that I turned on these machines and all of a sudden I was printing my own money. And it was a lot of money at its peak. And I think that I felt like I had conquered the world or I had figured out the cheat code and then life happened, right? I got a hard dose of reality of what mining economics actually look like on a go forward basis. What's the game theory behind it? You know what's profitability actually start to look like? Power rates, power companies, like all this other stuff that we didn't really consider before we jumped, and it caused us early to do a whole lot of pivoting where we were trying to do this. I was trying to be a power broker, and then we were trying to broker ASIC deals, and then we were going to be, we're going to buy more machines and have them hosted somewhere else, and then we're going to be, we're going to start an ice cream stand, and then we're going to, like all these different things all over the place, and that lack of focus really drained us emotionally, and it drained our bank account, right? And that's what happens when you don't have focus. When you don't have clarity, you don't have focus, you don't have purpose, you end up flopping around trying to pivot to this and that and trying to figure out, well, if I just do all this stuff, something's going to work. That is not the way to do it. So, but we had to go through all that trial and fire ourselves because I'm stubborn and hard headed. And that's the way that God wanted to teach me how to do this. So but that was really the early days of what we did and the struggles that we endured early. But now those are maybe some of our biggest lessons that we can help share with other people. And that's why, when we were just talking with another client of ours the other day, and they were discussing trying to, maybe if I do this, maybe if I want to be I want to help coach people and become a marketing division, or maybe I want to be a social media influencer, or I want to be a this. And I said, what? I said, whoa. Stop. What are we actually trying to do? And she says, well, I really want my business to have a good base level so that in a few years it can really take off and be self-sustaining. I says, okay, let's time out. What you just described, you're going to need this skill, this skill, this skill, this skill, which you can get, but you don't have it right now. And you're going to take 6 months to learn all that stuff.
Yeah.
And you're not going to make any money in the process. You're going to just learn. Is that what you want to do? No. Okay. So now let's focus on what you actually want to do, which is I want my company to continue to grow a wider base. And that means I need more influence. So I said, go get more influence. Go you focus on your city, because they're going around to a localized city. I said, go around, knock on every business that's in your city, collaborate with them on social media, help get their followers to start following you, build your base of follower count to at least 5,000 followers on Instagram, and then start looking for how you can grow and help with advertising dollars, because that's going to be, the more influence you have, the more you can get, right? The more that you're going to be able to be more valuable in the marketplace, because you're going to have a very niche market with your local city, helping your local businesses, which is basically what you really want to do. And it's what you're most positioned to do well at. So I said, focus on the one thing. Go get followers week over week, track your follower count, and then track your how many reach outs you do with different businesses, whether they're Instagram or in person. So two things we're going to measure from going forward. Those two things and those two things alone. Everything else is noise. Everything else is noise. Stay focused on what's important. And I said, we're going to do that for 6 months and we're going to see what happens. And it's like, that's it. It's the focus. It's the focus on what's most important and figuring out what that looks like for each individual owner. And then making sure that the plan is simple and is crafted with accountability built in. And they immediately that afternoon, they were already reaching out to businesses. So it's like, yes. But there was alignment. There was all of a sudden there was, all right, I know what to do now. Right. Yeah. There's clarity. And before that call, they were feeling stressed and overwhelmed and everything was just kind of on edge. Now there's no more on edge. For them, there was no more confusion. There was no more uncertainty. It was like, this is my plan. I'm going to stick with this plan and we're going to make it work. We're going to make it happen. So, and that's so important. I wish I would have had somebody like that before I started and help with that level of clarity. I probably could have saved a lot more. They don't even know what I just saved them from. Like, honestly, they have no idea what I just saved them from going down the wrong road and how costly that can be in both time, money, and heartache. And
I know. Imagine if we had coaches starting out. I mean, we would have. I don't even know. I think would be a different mindset.
I feel like if you would have had coaches, you wouldn't have gone into Bitcoin.
No,
that's so true.
Not at all. Probably not at all.
True.
That was a really powerful Holy Spirit download that just came out of my mouth. That I was like, I'm gonna be bold for a second. I'm just gonna say it. So that I feel like that's the truth because what I don't know you guys very well at all, but what I know is that what the Lord has given you is this heart to help people. And, Alex, your story is that you got caught in the balance between not looking at Jesus, right? And getting caught up in the enemy's lies of what you actually need, right? And it's this balance. It's if both happen at the same time, right? Where like you take your eyes off Jesus and the lies enemy is stirring in you for that are factual in ways, right? Like, it's not that you were wrong to think those things, but like, oh, you got to get more money. You got to take care of your kids. You got to do all this stuff. It was this beautiful messiness that ended up being, well, what's going to do that quickly? And I think that that's ultimately not either of your hearts because there's this element of both of you that wants to help people, that wants to make a difference. And you just were following what you thought was going to solve that one problem, but not potentially from not what God really had to say about it. And I think there's a lot of people, and like my story is one of those. Like, there's, I made the head-heart connection pretty early on in life of like what I meant to do, and I run a podcast as of right now, right? It's run by Jesus Christ and my bank account, and that's okay for now because I'm invested in the long game. I'm invested in the why. I'm invested in what we're doing here on the Brittany Wheeler Show and the impact and what I can see God is going to use this platform for, not just for myself, but for others. But I also was where you guys were at in other ways too, of just like trying to grasp, like, what about this? What about this? And God is so gracious and loving to gently be like, that's not it, right? But you have to stumble through those things too, right? To be able to realize that, what is the thing? And God gave you all those things of what not to do to help people, which is your heart, which is what the two of you love to do, in what not to do, right? I don't think it's a coincidence that your story is so specific in a way of being an entrepreneur, in a way of like, hey, we were at this moment. What do we do? Because all of these layers are going to be able to serve and help people far beyond just business, right? Like anybody you run into in a coffee shop or just getting to hear people's stories and be able to share a nugget or two. You may never meet them again until we get to heaven, right? But to know that your pain was turned into purpose, I mean, like I believe there's two types of entrepreneurs. I believe there's the entrepreneurs that have a higher power, that know God and that follow and that discern, and he is leading them. And those are the ones that like I see that will have success. It might take a little bit longer, but they're not necessarily hooked on different vices or false truths or get caught up in the lies of the world. And then you see the other entrepreneurs that maybe they know God, but they don't have a relationship. They too are successful, but they're caught up in the vices and the world. They're caught up in the short-term needs, right? They're caught up in the adrenaline of the moment. And neither are bad, but I think that as an entrepreneur, you have a choice. And I've said this to someone that I knew. I was like, you're at a moment, you're at a crossroad. What kind of entrepreneur are you going to be? Are you going to lean into God and strengthen your faith and strengthen the foundation? Or are you just going to allow the enemy in the world to keep you going? Because I think I said it to you, maybe I said it to you earlier, I said it to someone else. It's like somebody could tell me what the statistics of being a podcaster mean. And then I will tell them, but this is what God said. And you can question me on it after I get to where I go, because God said that this is going to be a thing. Now, I don't go and question professionals. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying, I am saying that there's a level of when you are so grounded in what God is telling you to do and you're being obedient and you're listening and you're trusting and you're doing some batshit crazy things that don't make sense to the world. It doesn't matter what professionals say. And I think you guys have entered that space of like, it's not going to matter what other people say as an entrepreneur. We're choosing. The head and the heart have connected. We're going to love people. We're going to share our story. We're going to turn their pain into purpose because ours was too. And I think there's such beauty as an entrepreneur when you're in that space because the richness, I think you mentioned it earlier, Alex, the richness and just like the fulfillment that God can give you because of that exceeds any of the pain and the trials and all of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it, yeah, it is so powerful when you do have alignment. It's something to be super grateful, humbled, and cherished beyond anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could definitely see that, especially in our family life too. During those 5 years of us going back and forth, it was hard. Definitely, it was hard, but as you said it before, I think that the transition could have been a little bit easier. But I do believe that God uses everything for his purpose and for his glory. And all the hard things that we went through, we were learning different skills that we were deficient in, that we had no idea. And God used the space that we were in to practice on some of the people there, And it was, I could see, I believe that God has a purpose for everything, and the purpose, everything that we've experienced the past 5 years, it was for his glory, and he will use it for his glory, either now or in the future too.
Yeah. So good. Jen, I would love to know, like, I was going to ask one question and now I'm like tweaking and thinking about asking a different one because the Holy Spirit thing, for anybody that doesn't know, it's like an internal meter. I could decide to just ask like, what kind of car do you drive? Because it could happen. Uh, I think I want to, in the last question, I think I want to dive in a little bit more into your faith. And I think there's a lot of people that are in pain that don't have an upbringing of knowing God the way you have and potentially even have a spouse that has such a rich understanding of God. And I think I would love to know, maybe some examples or just what comes to your heart of like what has your relationship with Jesus meant to you, and if somebody is out there that's uncertain of how to even start that, like, what is that? How would you help them in that? How would you guide them in that from your experience and your perspective of life that you've lived with him?
Well, I can say that it is all about God. Through the troubles and trials that life takes you, you can either see one of two things. You can see the pain that you feel, or you can see the grace of God that he's given you. So through our pain and sufferings that we have felt, we have known God as experientially know, because you have the Eastern culture, which is like the experientially know, and then you have the Western culture, which is like acquaintance know. But he allows you to walk this life and to experientially know himself in a greater way. So we have seen him as our provider. We have experienced him as our provider, our protector, especially on the road. Um, and it's just the grace that he has given us that he's able to still work through us is amazing. And I think for the husband and wife business people out there, and even just couples in general, one spouse might want to change the other spouse and to do other things, but his Alex's grandmother actually poured into me a lot, and I loved her. She was like one of my mentors. She gave me a book to read. It was The Power of a Praying Wife by Stormy Martian. And this book is, tells you can't change your husband at all, through everything that we've been going through the past 5 years and through sailing and, just our life. Wives do not have the power to change their husbands.
No.
They can pray for them. And the only person who can change their husbands is God.
Yeah.
So that's where prayer comes in. So if you want to change your husband, you pray. You got to pray to God. No, but it's mostly not even change your husband. It's changing yourself, to maybe a different perspective. God was definitely dealing with Alex during those times, and I could see how much pain and turmoil there was, just that he was in. But the power of prayer is real. And if you have a spouse that you can see the pain and they're not even listening to you, I'm like, I'm right here, listen to me, they're not even listening to you. And that's the time where you just pray. You just pray for them.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. And I also think there's that part of like, when I think understanding spiritual warfare is very new for Western Christianity and actually leaning into it. And I think, from Alex, obviously you lived it and you experienced it, but like, there's also feels like that again, the fear and anxiety and the stresses you were living in were not of God. Those were of the enemy, right? Those were of seeds that were being planted. And I think it's also really powerful as a friend, as a spouse, when you can see someone and you can separate their flesh from the spirit and you can see really what's going on and like what they're navigating in. And I'm not saying that's easy in any relationship, right? But that can be really powerful to just give 1 ounce of grace in a moment where you might have reacted, right? And then that grace gives time and separation for you both to have a minute with God, to then come back together to have a productive conversation or a productive moment or a moment of love and endearment to each other. And I love that book. I read that book several years ago for those that are single and that, I think we underestimate the power of prayer. And I read that several years ago when I had started praying for my husband, when I had a very wise friend that said, well, don't wait till he's here. I mean, he could use the work now. And I was like, you ain't wrong.
It's true.
And so
That's true.
I did. I started praying for him and I didn't know his name, but it's again, like what I uncovered in that experience of reading that book is similar to what you said. It's like, what is the journey that God takes you on, right? Like, what's the refining of, love and grace and patience and like, we're not given patience. We're given opportunities to be patient, right? So that book is like going through opportunities to be patient, to have a choice. Are you going to choose to react or to be patient? And I would agree with you, even though he hasn't arrived yet, what I experienced in praying through that book was what I believe God takes you on as the woman praying, as the woman experiencing. And she even says it herself in the book. So, the three of us experienced that for sure.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's a great book. Highly recommend that one for just everyone, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So cool.
Yeah. And it's also dangerous.
Oh my goodness.
When you pray a
Yes.
prayer of God, increase my faith or give me patience, like these are some
Those are
dangerous prayers.
I believe that's what kickstarted our entrepreneurial journey. It was 2 prayers. He was praying, God, increase my faith. And I was praying, God, let us see life in light of eternity. And I believe God answered our
God said,
prayer.
okay.
and, and now we're like, oh, no. It was not comfortable at all.
No, we're
But
not-
that's not the Christian walk. It's not to be comfortable.
my
It's to
God,
live in faith.
did it have to be that painful? I mean, really? Did you have to make it that painful?
It's so funny you guys say that because I'll never forget. People that have listened to our episodes before, they know my story. But it was May 1st. I made a deal with God of 2022, and I was a social alcoholic. I will still wear that title if that means that more people realize that the way they drink is more of an alcoholic than not. And so I like the title social alcoholism because that's what I was. I can go without drinking, but when I drank too much. And so I made a deal with God May 1st. I said, okay, I will quit drinking if you grow my business. It felt like a really great exchange, right? Like it felt like this is good. This is fine. Well, just to let everybody know whether you have a relationship with God or not, there was no legal binding agreement. He really didn't say yes or no. I just put it out there, right? And I was like, let's do it. So never make a deal with God. It doesn't necessarily go the way you think it's going to go. It's always better, but it never thinks where you think it's going to go. And a month and a half in, I was in prayer time on my porch, beautiful oak tree covering the wind, and the light was fluttering in 6 a.m. The birds are chirping. And it's the only time God has ever audibly spoken to me where I heard his voice. And he said, is the life you long for worth drinking for? And I said, no. And that was it. It was like a Tupperware lid container, the last part of myself that I needed to give to him in that space of who I was willing to put down. And the journey he has taken me on in 3 years, it's so crazy because what you just said, I resonated with so much. Like I said, grow my business, God. I didn't say all of this that you've taken me through in the 3 years, but it's good, right? And it's unbelievably hard because it's good, right? Like, and I think that one of the things that I talk about a lot on the show more recently, I do 2 things. I call Christians up to be better. That's number 1. And number 2 is I'm honest about what it actually means to walk this walk, because I think we've spent so many decades and years in this false identity of what it actually means to love Jesus and to walk with him. And it means that life sucks. Like life is hard, like
Agreed.
it's not going to be easy. And I think the more Christians that are disciples, that are walking, that speak the truth of the hard they're experiencing and the good they're experiencing, whoever decides to follow Jesus, that's your choice. But at least you have a real idea of what you're walking into versus thinking that it's all going to be great. And then when you decide to walk with Jesus, you get mad because you're like, well, this is not what I signed up for. The Brittany Wheeler Show, we're honest here about what it means to walk with Jesus.
Yeah.
So when you say yes,
Yeah, no, the only thing I would expand on that is life is stressful, right? You get to choose your stress. You get to choose your hard. You get to choose the path that you want to walk down, and then you die. And then that's it, right? And then you don't have any stress. The only people that don't have stress are dead people. So
That's it.
like if you have stress, it means you're alive. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing. And that also means that, like going back to what we were saying earlier, time is so important. And how you spend your time is so important because you only get one life to live. Yeah. You only get one chance at this. And, once it's done, it's done. Once your time is up, your time is up.
Yeah.
And how can you go live?
Go live for others too. Yeah. Live and live for others, right? Like make it worth it. Like I love, there's a business leader that says like she hopes at the end of her life that she gets to heaven and he says, thank you, good and faithful servant, right? Like how can God use you? Alex, I have one last question for you that just came to mind. You can thank the Holy Spirit for this. You have been a believer your whole life and it's generational, right? So you've had a whole family of amazing stewards of God's love. What kind of pressure does that make you feel, not only for yourself, but also ensuring that you guide your children in the same way?
I don't know if historical pressure is where I feel the angst. I think the real pressure that I feel is from God, where conviction on my failures as a father to my own children, and how do I shepherd them better? My own attitudes towards them. Do I lose my temper? Sure. And do the kids, we live in tight quarters. They do childish things. Does it get to me? Absolutely. Sometimes I'm not the best. I don't respond the best. And that's where I have my loving wife to remind me of when I screw up. And I think the real, the weight I feel really is around shepherding and stewarding their hearts more for who they are in the next generation. Because my oldest son, he's going to be 10 in a couple of weeks, but he's only got another 8 years in the house, or in with us underneath our shepherding, and then he's going to be out, and that time's going to go by. The first 10 years went by in a flash, and 8 years is going to be nothing. So, and that's just the oldest. So I think the pressure I feel is more with the short time that we get with our kids underneath our protection and our stewardship. How do we prepare them to be good and productive citizens of wherever they live, and also to be good and faithful servants of the Most High? So I think that's probably where I feel the most weight.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's good and honest. And I think there's a lot of parents that feel that. Like, I don't believe that you're the only one, but I think there's so many that don't know how to articulate that. So thank you for articulating it, because I think there's going to be a lot of people listening that can resonate to that. Is there anything else before we get into lifestyle questions that the two of you feel you need to share that's on your heart?
That's on our heart is just, again, I think it's more helping people prioritize what's important, right? And that's going to look differently for everybody. The tools that we've come up with, that we've been given, like, this is all, it's all just tools, but the crafting a life that honors God looks different for everybody. And there's no, like, this is the path. Entrepreneurship's not the only path, right? God has given plenty of people a lot of different types of gifts in a lot of different places, and he's put people in different positions, whether they're in companies or they're, in their communities, or they're, like you were saying, or they're the stay-at-home moms. Like, everybody has an impact with the people around them, and they have influence over somebody.
Yeah.
And it's important that you understand that contentment's going to come from knowing that you're doing what God wants you to do, and that you are in alignment with His will. And that's the big thing in life, right? It's not, no, not everybody's going to be Elon Musk. Not everybody's going to be Jeff Bezos, right? But you look at people that have had significant impact over others, and in the Bible, there's Abraham's, right? Wealthy guys that God used mightily. There's the Noahs who saved a human race. But then there's also the Peters, right? Peter's in the tiny little fishing village that barely could read and write, and he used them mightily for his kingdom. So I think that would be my thing that I'd love to share with everybody in your audience, is just understanding that alignment and contentment I've found in my life has come from making sure that my priorities reflect God's will, and spending time figuring out what that is time well spent.
That's good. Jen, do you have anything?
I would say, go live your life. Honestly, so as a mother and of 5 kids, I was like, you know what? We're going to have to wait to do this. We're going to have to wait to do this. You know what? No, just go do it now, because it's okay. You can figure it out on the way. God has given you the smarts to do so as a mother, and to, and even as a father, as a family, just go and do it. Start living, start living in obedience to God, or, whatever you want to do.
I told you that fire's still there.
It's still there. And the audience is welcome. They are getting to experience that. So literally, for whatever reason, I obviously don't drink anymore. For whatever reason, after you said that, I just wanted to take a shot. I was like, wow, that's and they're like, live your life. And I'm like, cheers. Yes, let's do it.
love it.
good. So good. Okay, lifestyle questions. And like, I'm very interested to hear your answer for this. What is your favorite? And you can have different answers, by the way. It's a safe space. What is your favorite coffee shop that you've been to? I guess it could be where you are now or you were previously. It could be anywhere, really. And what's your favorite go-to order?
So coffee, we kind of quit coffee. We're on Celsius now. So in the camper,
Love
we
it.
still have a French press of coffee, but it takes a long time, and sometimes like we just need to go do stuff. So we have Celsius, but no longer the Celsius cans because it's the weight and the storage in the car. So we have these Celsius packets that Alex puts in our water so we can get some water in the morning. My favorite flavor is orange. It's my favorite. So it would be Alex. Alex is whatever he does in coffee.
Well, we
Yeah,
spent,
I mean Celsius.
yeah. So favorite, well, we're on the food question, lifestyle question. We spent some time up in Grand Forks, North Dakota last year. And North Dakota is a beautiful place, beautiful part of the country that nobody really thinks about or knows about. But there's Mike's Pizza was
It was pretty good.
absolutely amazing pizza. They had like the Germinator with the sausages and
Sour
sauerkraut on it.
Yeah.
They had like a
meat lovers,
with
taco
salad on top of the pizza. Like, yeah, they had some ridiculously good pizza for being in the middle of nowhere, North Dakota. So,
well, I didn't know that we were on food. I thought we were just on
That's
coffee.
okay. Alex went to his own space. He's fine.
I did.
Jenn, he's taking your advice. He's living his life. Like that's
That's it. Living my life.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, I'm a sucker for a good pizza. I'm a foodie as well, and I love good going out to eat and good food and varieties of different foods. Like, and I think that's it's what can be challenging also about traveling in some parts of the country is like you have to manage your expectations culturally of what you're going to expect. If you're used to living in cities like we have, right? So I lived in DC area for 5 years and, I've been close to Boston. And so like, it's just when we went out to Utah, also the irony is not lost on me that in a state that is, has several, mostly a Mormon religion where they don't drink coffee, it's some of the best coffee I ever had. So that the irony is not lost on me. But going there, I had to really manage my expectations, like food in general, because like what they eat is a very different, like basic need to survive. I'm not getting like, oh, you can add this side and this accommodation. And, it's very much like meat, potatoes, fried, fast, big portions.
Yeah. No, I agree. North Dakota didn't really have vegetables, and I love vegetables, salads and whatnot. But again, it's the little places that you go to.
Yeah.
You either drive up in a small town where the only grocery store is a Dollar General, or I love Publix. Publix down in South Florida is amazing. I miss Publix.
Yeah.
Well, we were just driving. We were driving through the mountains here in the Lincoln Forest National
It's
Forest.
National Forest.
It's National Forest. Yeah, Lincoln National Forest here in New Mexico, and we were just driving in a little town called May Hill. There is a country store, and I was just like driving past it. I think we need to stop there, and so we pulled off the side of the road. It was this wonderful little town, little store, and
Of 80 people.
Of like 80 people. And the owners, it was like a family business. So they had the two cousins were running the store. One, they have a farm where they grow their own cherries and just like all kinds of produce, but they grow all this stuff and then they sell it in the store. And it was such an amazing story, an amazing brand, and seeing like so much, like those are the stories. And so we had a little interview. So they let us do an interview with them. We're going to be posting on our socials there and kind of get to know them a little bit, but their products are amazing. And that was just a cool experience to stop into a country store and be, hey, what do you guys do here? What, like, tell us your story. And we're getting to experience those stories that we're finding are not that uncommon. Right. And finding these
small America.
These small town America and their family stories are linked to their businesses and what they do and who they are. And it's just amazing to find this stuff. So
Yeah.
super blessed.
I think there's such an integration of that too. I think there's such a shift. Like I kind of felt the small business shift happen, 5 years before I started even in the small business world. And I think that's continuing, right? And you're seeing that as well, small and medium-sized businesses and just people, again, the same idea of like, how do we integrate our lives to really have a richer meaning? And so we're not just going to work or just going to school or just, being at home. We get to do it so that it's all interwoven and it feels good and it feels right for what makes sense and our values. And a lot of that is getting back to the roots of like small business and what does it mean to own something? What does it mean to get to add value into the community, right, that we're a part of? And there's always a place for people that are not entrepreneurs, because if everybody was an entrepreneur, we wouldn't be that cool. And so
I know, right?
I'm okay that not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, because it leaves space for us, right? Like, I'm good with it. That's great. So last lifestyle question. What is a book that either of you have read multiple times that you think somebody in the audience should read?
Oh man, there's business books. But honestly, I go back to the Chronicles of Narnia. So we did the video or the audiobook in the cars multiple times, but you pick up little tidbits. So it was all 7 books. And it's interesting for what your experience in your life right now. Just one book resonates with you, and then you have like another book resonate with you like in a month. It's amazing how God talks to you through that, and just seeing the character of God in Aslan, and how he deals with his people, and the children there. It's I would say that, but it has to be multiple times in different stages of your life, because you get little nuggets along the way.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien are just like 2 examples of literary geniuses, right? That were God's good and faithful servant, right? And so it's not a coincidence that you say that you experience that, because when you read the Bible and you read passages in different stages of life and different books in the Bible, you get something different every time. And that doesn't,
Right.
That's not lost on me that you feel the same way with Chronicles of Narnia, because like if he was being a good and faithful servant, which we know he was, like so much of how God, transcribed the Bible and transcribed and used the Holy Spirit comes through in that way. And also the Lord of the Rings series, right? Like it's not the same, but there are nuggets and there are moments where you can see God in it. The other thing I was going to say, do you remember, in the vein of the Chronicles of Narnia, do you guys remember the PBS movie that came out?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't.
Yes.
No.
you've got to show your kids. It's the only version I really love the most, because I just feel like it was it's like a British Narnia. And it was just, it's so vivid to me. The imagery, because it's really like, it's roughly done. I mean, it's PBS in the 90s, right? But it's like, for whatever reason, that's what I think about when I think about Chronicles of Narnia, is that exact movie and adaptation of it.
We'll have to check that one out.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. Absolutely.
The witch is so creepy looking. It's like, it's a good one.
I did a good job. I did a good job with that. For what they had to work with, they did a good job.
Yeah, for real. Thank you guys for coming. This was awesome. Whether or not this is your thing and you're an entrepreneur, or you know someone that could really benefit from what they're offering, share the information, share the episode, share this episode with people that need to hear how to overcome obstacles as a couple and what that looks like. And there were so many nuggets today in the episode that I believe are really going to make a difference in people's lives. So, share, follow us wherever you listen to podcasts, follow us wherever you follow us on social media, subscribe to the YouTube, and just continue to follow along, interviewing ordinary people that are living extraordinary lives. And this amazing couple is no different. And I really look forward to seeing you guys and to seeing where you continue to go and how God continues to use you. You guys, as always, do good things, make me proud, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.